Hi there, welcome to the video, and hello again if you're a return viewer. You're watching the Crush It Review of Books, and I'm Kerry, your host. Today, a book that probably will need no introduction to most of the viewers of this channel. I get a lot of hits, people looking for this guy's work. So this is Mick Herron's latest Slough novel, Clown Town. Do I need to introduce what this book is about, what the series is about? This is the 9th mainline series entry of the Slough, aka Slow Horses, as it's now better known since the TV adaptation. This is the 9th mainline book. There is probably 20, maybe 20 works altogether in the canon of this universe that Herron has created. Several short stories and 2 or 3 other novels which exist in the same continuity. Anyway, like I said, this is the first one for a couple of years. I think the last book he put out was The Secret Hours, which was one of those books I mentioned that is in the same continuity but not Slough main story. I've been waiting for this one for a while and I enjoyed reading it, but it is a little controversial. I see in online discussion people aren't so hot for this one. It is a bit different. Yes, you get the wit and wisdom of Jackson Lamb and the ridiculous inner thoughts of Roddy Ho and the bumbling, well-intentioned actions of River Cartwright. But it's low-key and it's fairly low stakes until later on. There's like a 2-part to this story. So basically the story is introduced slowly. It's up to almost 80-90 pages before you get an idea what's really going on. We're basically introduced to a group of former agents known as who were named the Brains Trust in the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they were, spoilers in case you want to read this book and don't want any spoilers, stop here. They were agents involved in handling a asset for the UK government in its conflict against the IRA in Northern Ireland, and the asset they handled was a psychotic killer. And of course this would be very embarrassing to the government if it comes out and was proven to have happened. Apparently in the world of this book there have been leaks and rumours and innuendo about this happening, and the government really doesn't want more of it to be sold. So one of the people involved in the Brains Trust gets the idea to basically finds evidence, incontrovertible evidence that these things happened, and he wants to blackmail basically the current high officers of the Secret Service to get some type of compensation for the degrading life he's had to live since leaving the service. All these Brains Trust people that went back to some type of low-class civilian life. One of them ended up living under a bridge for a while, and that they've got a bit of a grudge against their former paymasters, and one of them, a gentleman called C.C. Stammerin, decides he's had enough and he wants to force a blackmail attempt upon the Secret Service. And Stammerin path also intersects with River Cartwright via the River Cartwright's now deceased grandfather's old library books, contents maybe which have been transferred to Oxford University, where they're being shelved just exactly as the old spy had them. And part of this effort, someone notices that one of the books that was filmed in his old study is actually missing, and it turns out that book is actually a false book which holds secret items, which happens to be which I'm probably not giving too much away. It happens to be the evidence that Stammerin needed to do the blackmail attempt. And so River gets involved, and Sid Baker gets involved, and then the entire Slow Horses team, the line-up from the last couple of books that probably a little less than stellar than the earlier books, I think. They all get involved, and of course Diana Taverner, head desk of MI5, is not going to let herself get blackmailed easily by Stammerin, and she has a plan to basically turn him around and use him for her own purposes. She's still under the yoke of Peter Judd, the Boris Johnson analogue of this book series, which I see they've gone on a different direction in the TV show. More on that soon. So she sees a way of using Stammeran to rid her of the threat over her existence by Peter Judd, and things come to a head. And like I said, it's low stakes. There's not an existential crisis this time. There's not terrorists about to blow up the Parliament buildings or anything like that. It's a blackmail attempt and the confrontation that comes after things go a bit wrong for Stammeran. That seems to be resolved. It takes the two members of the Slough horses off the board. There are two of them who we don't know the fate of each of them. It kind of hints who comes back from the verge of death and who didn't. But as usual, Herron could be playing tricks with us. He's done it before in earlier books. Anyway, and you get up to the stage and you realise there's still 100 pages left in the book. What's going to happen? And it kind of turns around to something a little more serious, a little more dangerous, perhaps, with the slow horses. And basically, Lamb decides to take revenge on Diana Taverner for what she's done, what she's set up, how she tried to use his Joes, as he calls them, his team, and it leads to an event, a confrontation, which I think there's no going back from for Lamb or Taverner, really. So this has led to discussion online that this could be setting up for one more final book, or maybe at most two final books. Has been discussion in the media that Herron has talked about killing off the Jackson Lamb character, which would really end the book series. He is really the draw card. He is the heart and soul of this series, no doubt about it. I mean, there are other characters which carried along, but without Lamb, I don't think the series would survive unless they did flashbacks to his time in Germany or earlier teams of slow horses that he ran. Maybe that's an option, but you know, it seems like he's putting the pieces on the board for a big finale, which would see the final confrontation between Taverner and Lamb. So if that excites you, good. I just found something was missing in the main part of this book. It was just too low stakes by the books. Got more exciting at the end, like I said, but you know, this isn't the best of the series, really, and it is definitely not a place to start reading the books if you haven't before. This maybe one or two books before was a good entry point, but this is really relies on continuity for events ahead. What happened to River Cartwright? What happened to other characters? The growing antagonism between Taverner and Lamb. You need a kind of a back knowledge of all that. So anyway, is the series coming to an end? Who knows? Only Mick Herron knows. I'm sure it's a big money spinner, but maybe since the TV series, it doesn't need to concentrate on the book so much. And that brings me to the TV series. This, I think, is the first mainline Slough novel which I've read since I started watching the TV series on Apple TV+. And I cannot picture the characters in this book any other way now than the TV characters, which is perhaps a worry. I used to think of Jackson Lamb more like a Timothy Spall when he was large type of character, but now all I can see is Gary Oldman's slovenly figure, and likewise all the other Slough House regulars or characters I see as the TV people in my head. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I mean, they've done a really good job on the TV show, but it does feel like I'm losing my imagination for some of these characters. And there's also some sly references to the TV show in the book, which I'm not sure if it's necessary. Someone starts singing lines which are part of the Mick Jagger theme song of the TV show and stuff like that. So anyway, it's enjoyable, but maybe perhaps for the fans, the long-term fans. I've been reading these books for probably 10 years now, and I know they've been out for another 4 or 5 years before that. There's a bit of a story to this series, how it was released. Mick Herron put these books out in about 2011 or something, the first ones, and the publishers never really supported him. He went through a couple of publishers before he found someone who really backed him, and they became a success. I know online 10 or so years ago, there was a growing undercurrent of love for these books amongst thriller and spy fiction aficionados. I know myself, I was a regular user of, I think, the Spyberry community. I think it still exists on Facebook. I'm not there anymore. But Spyberry podcast or whatever, that did a lot of heavy lifting for promoting this type of thing for me. Rekindled my interest in this genre. And yeah, so it's been a fun ride for Herron, for reading Herron's books and the universe he's created, all the short stories, the semi-connected books and the characters. Yeah, it's kind of brought my interest back into thrillers and spy fiction, which kind of drifted away from after a while earlier in my life. So anyway, so that is Clown Town by Mick Herron. Take it as you will, not one for beginnings of the series. Probably too many tight connections to earlier books, and could there be no going back from this one? Okay, thank you, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.